What's up, everybody? Philly Soccer Page postgame show. I'm Mike Servedio here with Philadelphia Union tactical genius Adam Cann.
Hey, good friend.
What's up? Massive win for the Union as they beat Western Conference leaders Sporting Kansas City 2-0 behind what was considered mostly a reserve team, resting players in front of the Open Cup final on Wednesday. How big of a result is that after the win on Wednesday in Seattle?
I mean, it's huge, right? Like we've covered the Union, the two of us, since their inception, and after that Montreal loss, we've seen things go wrong many times before, and the way they've bounced back, you can see it's a different attitude in there. And today in his press conference, Jim McCarthy talked about the influence of Ali Bedoya in the locker room, and I think you just saw that when the going got tough, this was a different response than we've seen in the past, and we've seen it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Big night tonight big afternoon, actually, matinee game for Jay Simpson today. He comes up with a brace. We've not seen a lot of Jay Simpson, a signing that's often panned in the media, but a pretty good performance coming in on Seattle, kind of forcing the goal on Wednesday night, and then a really nice brace today, like two really well-taken goals.
Yeah.
How big of a game is that for Jay?
It's huge. I mean, it's especially huge because there really hasn't been any striker depth since the Union started going with Corey Burke and CJ Sapong up top. You don't really have anyone else to bring in, and now you feel like you have trust in Simpson going forward. And Curtin said in his presser again that Simpson's been great the past 2 weeks in training, and he really has. He's been finishing chances, he's been getting in spots, and I think aside from the goals, you saw a lot of really good hold-up play from him. And there was a play I think it was in the first half early on, where he chased a defender all the way into the corner and used the wet ground to slide tackle him. And it was just sort of a pick-me-up moment for the entire team against the Western Conference leaders that showed they were really going to go out with some bite.
Definitely a changed lineup today from Wednesday, and looking forward to the Open Cup final. Was there something differently that the Union were looking to do, either in the attack or defense today, with the group of guys that they had out there tactically?
I think the main thing that they wanted to do was they wanted to isolate Akam on the left, and they wanted to see if they could get behind Sesanovic on the right with Fabian Herbers. And you didn't see as much of that as I think they would have hoped, but what you did see was really tight defensive lines. You saw a high back line, and then Derek Jones and Warren Creavalle sitting in front. Creavalle had a big game. Jones dropping in between the center backs, Harris Medunian style, something we haven't seen before. So I think you saw them defensively execute really well, and in attack, sort of patient and took their chances when Bedoya came in the game.
Yeah. I want to ask you about a couple of individual performances tonight. You just mentioned Derek Jones, so let's start there. I thought maybe a middling game on Wednesday where he did some good things and maybe turned the ball over a little bit much. I thought today he was outstanding. I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch. I thought he did a lot better with the ball. I think a lot of dirty running. I think dropping back to grab the ball from the center backs. What did you see in his performance today?
Yeah. I think what happened is Casey didn't really put anyone tight on him, sort of expecting, like on Wednesday, that he would be a little uncomfortable on the ball. And so when he came back deep to get it and created those third-man situations in the back line, it made it really difficult for Casey to stop the Union's build-ups. And then they could use the width and advance. And you saw both Olivier Mbaizo and Fabinho have fairly good games on both sides of the ball, which I think is something that was possible at the start, but not something you really might have betted all your life savings on. And I think Jones, both Deutschkal and Bedoya coming in the center, Simpson, of course, and then all the subs that came in, I think gave a big boost, and that was very necessary. And then I probably shouldn't overlook John McCarthy and Austin Trusty. Huge performance from McCarthy back there. Yeah, absolutely.
Another guy you just mentioned too, MLS debut handed to Olivier Mbaizo, right back, a guy that has performed well with Bethlehem Steel this year. What I said to you during the game is that he didn't look out of place.
Right.
And I think that was the biggest thing that I was looking for him today, and I thought he performed pretty well. He was probably unlucky not to get a penalty kick, draw a penalty kick in the first half.
But no comment. In my official capacity. I've always loved Mark Geiger.
What did you see from Mbaizo today, though?
I think they tried to attack him early. I think you could tell that with Fernandez, they thought they had a real chance to get behind him, because regardless of all of Mbaizo's athletic ability, he hasn't seen the speed of MLS. And Gerso just destroyed San Jose's back line a few days ago. And so I think they really wanted to get behind him. And the Union's goal early on was to split the center backs and force Casey to play through Matt Beasler, and Beasler likes to look for that crossfield diagonal rather than going up his same side. And so eventually Casey settled for going wide to Russell and looking for that matchup against Fabinho instead. And at that point, Mbaizo was able to get forward some, and he was really patient with the ball. I think he had a legitimate shout for a penalty when he did a double step over in the box against Matt Beasler, which I guess we all saw.
I love the confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the confidence.
And you're right, he has been really good at Bethlehem Steel this year. He is someone that Brendan Burke has picked out as a guy who's taking big strides forward, and says that when he plays well, they're a very tough team to beat. And you've seen it, that he gives an extra dimension, galloping up that right side. It allows him to tuck in a winger, and Steele have really relied on him heavily. It was nice to see him get his chance and really take it until I think he cramped up at the end a little bit.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. You mentioned John McCarthy. John McCarthy gets the nod after Andre Blake got sick before the game. Seems like he's going to be all right for Wednesday, thankfully. But
you don't want to give the description that Curtin gave of that?
I do not want to give the description. What was it exactly? I don't want to.
Throwing up out of everywhere.
That's it. Doesn't sound pleasant, but hopefully
we've all been there once or twice.
Hopefully that's something he recovered from Wednesday. But McCarthy comes in and does a stellar job. I think 2 saves, he gets down low to his left and kind of scoops out. A couple other, he's lucky that Kansas City shot right at him.
Yeah.
But a solid performance, which is I think all they needed from John today.
Yeah, and especially, even though it's near the end of the season, we've seen a lot of those two guys with Mark McKenzie and Austin Trusty in front of you. Those are still young guys without a ton of experience. Yeah. And McCarthy's played really well for Steele this year. And one thing you notice, even in practice, you can always hear John McCarthy. And today you could hear him as well. He was chirping the whole time, and that sort of energy coming out of the back is sort of the starting point for a good team performance today. And then you're right, man, both of those saves, really big ones, pushing the ball around the goal, and then coming out strong, and you got bumped by Iko Para, I think it was, once. So just really strong performance against a Kansas City team that can flood the box. And with so many guys who have, I think, 8 or 9 goals this season, you never know where the threat's coming from, and he really had to be on his game.
Yeah. You mentioned the subs, which I thought also really made a difference tonight. Bedoya ends up with 2 assists on the night. The second one, I think, is even better than the first one. The first one, he does really well to get up and win a big header, and the second one just cushions a soft header when he probably could take that chance on his own, giving the ball up to Jay Simpson to finish on a second. Jim mentioned Ali in the post-game press conference as a guy is kind of his voice in the locker room, a guy that's led this team. How big is that for him to come on the field today, lead the team to a 2-goal win after not starting after the Montreal loss last week?
Well, I think especially for Bedoya, he's a guy that he had a quote earlier this year to MLSsoccer.com where he said that he maybe felt the pressure a little bit of playing the number 10 role when he first came, and this season they've had to use him recently a few times in that spot. And today he came on. You didn't see much of a drop-off at all from Warwick Deutschgau, who also played well.
Very well.
And I think one of the great things about those assists is that he was really pushing to get forward and pair up with Simpson. So Simpson wasn't isolated. Even I think the first goal was in the 71st minute. Yeah. So even in the 71st, playing with a lot of guys who didn't have a lot of minutes, the Union were still pushing for that win. And that's the sort of thing you want to show the fans. I mean, we've been through lots of instances where you see a good spell and then a drop off, and I think Bedoya came in and made sure that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And he is a guy that he will say anything to anyone during practice, and it keeps guys on their toes and it keeps them motivated. And you can tell that he's competing in every drill to win it always. And they play a little three team drill on Fridays, and he's one of the guys who's always trying to win that drill. Him and Harris, of course. Harris will chirp at anyone too. You probably could have guessed that. But I think that's the sort of thing that pushes everyone to the next level, especially in these conditions like today, where it was a mess out there.
Yeah, it was. I think we'll wrap up there. First, the big week for the Union Open Cup final on Wednesday, and then a really potentially big matchup in Columbus next Saturday. So it should be an interesting one. I think we're back here in 2 weeks when Minnesota comes to town.
That's right, October 6th.
October 6th. So we'll see you then.